Michael Bynum. Michael is sponsored by Club 99 member Bob McEwen. Born in Russellville to lifelong public servants, Michael learned the value of public service from his family and the United Methodist Church, both of which taught him the Rotary motto of service above self. He put those lessons into action, serving as a member of the FUMC Youth Band, Student Council President, and as team captain and all-conference lineman, offensive lineman for the Russellville Cyclones. He also served on a church mission trip to Juarez, Mexico, where he built houses for local families. He earned his bachelor's degree in public administration from the University of Central Arkansas, where he served as the Student Government Association president and completed internships with United States Senator Blanche Lincoln and Congressman Vic Snyder. After graduation, Michael earned his master's of public administration from the University of Arkansas, where he focused his studies on state government and administrative law. After working for the Hewlett-Packard Company, he enrolled in the William H. Bowen School of Law, where he served as a Student Bar Association parliamentarian and was licensed to practice law in April of 2016. While attending law school, he began his career in Arkansas state government as a senior budget analyst for the Department of Finance and Administration, where he oversaw a budget portfolio that included institutions of higher education, public retirement systems, environmental and agricultural agencies, and economic development programs. After passing the bar, Michael served as an attorney for the Arkansas Department of Energy and Environment, where he is promoted to the Director of Compliance and led the department's fiscal, human resources, facilities, fleet, and regulatory compliance sections. Michael currently serves as the managing attorney for the Arkansas Department of Agriculture. Michael attends First United Methodist Church in downtown Little Rock and serves as chairman of the board of the United Methodist Child Development Center, affectionately known as the CDC, where his main policy initiatives have been centered around creating an environment where children thrive and teachers are valued and respected. Michael is married to Elizabeth, and they are the parents of two young sons, James and Samuel. When he is not chasing those young boys around, he enjoys playing guitar and collecting and painting miniature models. Welcome and congratulations, Michael. We're happy you're here.
Thank you, Molly and Hillary. Our membership streak is still alive. We're in 10 weeks. So I'm not counting next week because we're Club 99 dinner parties, but we're going to keep it going. Congrats, Michael. Welcome to Club 99. As I said, next week will be our Club 99 dinner parties. We will not be here at noon at the Clinton Center. You can show up, but you can go to the museum. You will not get lunch unless you go to 42. If you haven't signed up yet and you want to be on the wait list, please let Lel know or Ellen. I'm not sure if we got spots, but there might be openings if somebody cancels on us. So keep that in mind. A couple more quick reminders. Please save the dates. Our Dunbar Bobcats tailgate for the Dunbar Magnet Middle School is going to be October the 4th. Please make plans to join us for that. And the Camp Aldersgate Fish Fry will be October the 16th. This year, thanks to David Basil, I mentioned earlier, and past president Jeff Hildebrand, and through our club's longstanding partnership with the Broyles Award, we're going to be giving our members the option to reserve tickets at a significantly reduced price through the Rotary Club of Little Rock. That event is December the 2nd. Please be on the lookout for more details through our newsletter and emails from Karen. And now I'd like for Rick Fleetwood, in his beautifully adorned Razorback gear, to join us for a special presentation. Rick.
Good afternoon, my brothers and sisters in Rotary and special guests. Would I give us an extra down maybe sometime on it? You know, give us a good call, whatever. That's right. The University of Arkansas was founded in 1871, and since that time, there has been a large, wonderful number of men, women, and children who have helped face and direct that that university and that institution. And the one we're honoring today has set a standard so high that makes me so proud for the men, women, and children that you're serving. And also, as an old guy, give me hope again too. I like that, you know, so you're helping dreams come true and helping dreams for older ones who've been through the university for a long time also. But what he's done has been absolutely amazing. Used to at the university, and I can say because I've supported it for 60 years, okay, is that you've always backed maybe just football, and that was what was known for, or every once in a while basketball would pop in there, you know, and most of the time, sure, track and field. But the number of sports that he's brought to the forefront to put Arkansas and the university at the forefront nationally has just been astounding and not matched by anybody else. He's set the bar so high that other ones can only hope to get there. And by doing so, like I said, those dreams that those players, both men and women, and that's another thing that has done, it's expanded it so much more for not only for men in the university, but also for the women's programs to be advanced as much as what it has been, national championships, SEC championships. And we are so proud and so honored to have him here that he truly represents what Rotary is about and making difference in people's lives. And that's what you have done, Hunter. So if we could get Hunter Yurachek, please come forward. We have a presentation we'd like to give you, okay? Did you know this was happening or not? We wanted to make it a secret. Good. Why else you think I only did this for Frank Broyles. I did this for him now too.
I thought you did this for Commissioner Sankey.
I did this for you, son. Huh? Well, it's the Paul Harris Fellow Award. And I was afraid I was going to call it the Cliff Harris Award or that like that, you know, because of you. But the Rotary Foundation of Rotary International, Hunter R. Yurachek, is hereby named a Paul Harris Fellow in appreciation of tangible and significant assistance given for the furtherance of better understanding and friendly relations among peoples of the world. And that, my dear friend, is what you do. And you may say there's more to come. You can't go anywhere though. There's more to come. And I learned this from my good friend David Basil on it like that. But he has a thing you can read out here, and he has things typed up for him, and he has a staff and everything. But there are a number of people that I want to recognize, and I can't do it as good as you, and I sure can't do it as fast as you, but I'm going to try anyway on it like that. But thanks to, particularly to Micah Strother, to Courtney Little, Razorback Rick, Kenny Gibbs, Mike Marquez, Jay Gadberry, Aaron Lubin, Elizabeth Clauston, Betty Rodenbuck, Denver Peacock, Jeff Hildebrand, Bill Booker, Christina Bolthouse, Ellen Cockrell, Dan Young, Bill Pascal, who's not even a member of the club, Hank Kelly, Keith Hughes, Barry Hyde, and Andrew Meadows all helped make this thing possible today. Let's give all of them a good hand, please. And because of our honored guest that we have here today, it was not just enough to give him the Paul Harris, Cliff Harris Award. We also wanted to recognize him as a Cindy M. Brooks Fellow, which is a rare that anyone gets two of them in a row, but you're very deserving of it. And we're very proud of you. And it says the Rotary Club of Little Rock Club 99, Hunter R. Yurachek, is hereby named a Sidney M. Brooks Fellow in appreciation of tangible and significant assistance given for the furtherance of better understanding and friendly relations among people of Arkansas. The Hunter R. Yurachek. An undefeated season, yay!
Thank you. I'll be brief, and I did not expect this, and am flattered and floored and honored Rick, thank you. Denver, thank you. And to the Club 99, to all of your members, thank you very much. And I've said from the start, when my wife and I arrived here in December of 17, I could tell really quickly what makes the state of Arkansas so incredibly special are the people across this state and the passion that they have for the University of Arkansas. And our student athletes and our coaches would not be having the success that they're having right now without the incredible support that we get from everyone across this state. Razorback Stadium is sold out for the remainder of the season for the most part. Bud Walton is sold out already for men's basketball. We will sell out Ballmarker Stadium for baseball. We put 10,000 people in Bud Walton Arena for gymnastics last year. We sold out softball regionals and super regionals. We sold out NCAA tournament matches. That's because of the special people across this state that support the Razorbacks, and not just our football and basketball programs, but every one of our programs. And continue to support us, because we need your support, and our student athletes are obviously doing incredible things with the discretionary income that you provide them to do the things that they do. So thanks again for your support. Thank you, Rick and Denver, for these honors, and have a great day. Go Hogs.
Congratulations, Hunter. Again, that's very exciting. We're all very proud of all you were doing on the Hill. And my wife in particular loves the Coca-Cola contract, so I do too. So I appreciate that. What you're doing is great for the entire state, so thank you. As many of you know by now, during our La Petite Rose Tricentennial, I will spend my year as president telling stories about our region's past 300 years. With our well-known speaker being so prominently associated with national championships, especially in football, I'd like to share with you the story of Arkansas's first national championship football team. You're probably already thinking it's the 1964 team with legends Coach Frank Broyles, assistant coach Barry Switzer, Jerry Jones, Jimmy Johnson, Ken Hatfield, Jim Lindsay, Lloyd Phillips, Fred Marshall, and many other prominent Hogs. But nope, today's story is not about the Razorbacks. In 1947, John Larson, then president of Little Rock Junior College, also known simply as JC and the predecessor institution of UA Little Rock, hired Jimmy Karam to resurrect football first played at JC back in 1930. Coach Karam had winning seasons in his first 2 years, but it was his third season that read like a Hollywood script. These Little Rock heroes began their season of glory with an act of pure bravery and courage. It was September of 1949. Hearing of 3 small children trapped in a flash flooding of Coleman Creek at the center of campus, the young men ran from a team meeting to form a human chain to rescue the 3 girls. They wrapped the children in team blankets until a rescue team arrived. That's how the season started. 1 month later, the Trojans shattered the University of Arkansas freshman team's 16-game winning streak by a score of 34-0 at War Memorial Stadium. They continued to pile up big wins, including a 70-12 homecoming victory over Arkansas College, now Lyon College. Students held pep rallies and bonfires, and the city paraded the team down Main Street. An undefeated season led to unprecedented national attention. The Trojans received an invitation to play in the 4th annual Junior Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California. For 25 years, this game served as the official national championship for junior college football, pitting the best of the East versus the best from the West. The Trojans traveled to California by train, escorted by Miss Arkansas, enjoyed touring the movie studios, and were entertained by the Queen and King of the Junior Rose Bowl parade. And movie stars Patricia Neal, an Academy Award-winning actress, and Arkansas native Dick Powell. They hung out at the famed Brown Derby, and the cheerleaders danced with John Wayne. More than 50,000 fans filled the Rose Bowl on game day. Powell visited the locker room at halftime and gave a sterling pep talk. Benny Scott's remarkable punt return for a touchdown and Joe Shin's game-winning touchdown catch were the biggest plays of the game. The JC Trojans defeated the Santa Ana Junior College Dons 25-19 and were crowned national champions. Scott, as you may know, was the younger brother of Razorback legend and former Olympic star Clyde Smackover Scott, while Shin went on to set receiving records in the Canadian Football League. And now, in the words of past President Bob Denman and recounted in a 2015 AY article, quote, in 2006, the UA Little Rock Athletic Department brought the surviving members of the team to the Jack Stevens Center to be recognized at the halftime of a basketball game, where they were finally presented 57 years later with championship rings. I stood down on the floor, and as they exited the court, one of the players looked at me with tears in his eyes and said, "We thought we had been forgotten." I promised myself that night to tell their story every time I had a chance. This was one such chance, and now you too know their story. Thank you to Bob, and congrats to the Trojans. And if you need more proof, drop by the Bailey Alumni and Friends Center on the UA Little Rock campus to view the 1949 National Championship Trophy, 15 years before the 1964 Razorback Championship team. While we dream of a future NCAA championship for our beloved Razorbacks, and we do, and we still are, and as we reminisce about the 1964 team, let's not forget about Arkansas's first national champions, the Little Rock Junior College Trojans. And that's our Illuminating the Rock story for this week. And now I'd like for past President Jeff Hildebrand, the 17-year chairman of the Broyles Award with David Basil, to introduce our guest speaker. Jeff?
Thank you, Denver. That's a nice way of putting that. I carry David's bags for 17 years. So, good afternoon. One more time. Good afternoon. Thank you. It's my pleasure today to introduce a man that needs no introduction, Commissioner Greg Sankey. Commissioner Sankey has been in his current position with the Southeastern Conference since 2015, but has been with the SEC since 2002. Prior to that, he was commissioner of the Southland Conference for 8 years. As commissioner of the SEC the last 8 years, the SEC has become bigger, stronger, and more imposing, not only in the big three sports of football, basketball, and baseball, but in all sports. The SEC sponsors 21 team championships, 12 women's sports, and 9 men's sports. In just the last 3 years, Commissioner Sankey has led the SEC to land a new television rights deal with ESPN, guided the conference through the uncertainty of the pandemic, announced the expansion of the SEC from 14 to 16 teams by adding Texas and Oklahoma, and we all know how much we love Texas, and is the chairperson of a committee that will lead to efforts to reconstruct the NCAA's top division. Recently, Sports Illustrated said our speaker was the most powerful person in college sports. This is a distinction which our speaker would prefer not to be called. That title to him suggests leading by force or demand. Commissioner Sankey uses the words influence and effectiveness. He is both effective and influential in leading the SEC and the NCAA. In his spare time, and I'm not sure he has much spare time, Commissioner Sankey is an avid runner and marathoner. He had a streak of running for 502 days in a row for at least 35 minutes. That streak ended last August of 2021. I bet he's probably started a new streak. The Southeastern Conference logo, it just means more, applies to Rotary Club 99 as well. It just means more to be a member of both. Let's give Commissioner Sankey a warm Rotary Club welcome.
Thank you for that introduction. Yesterday, I was introduced at another luncheon and the powerful thing was just left hanging. And so I have a habit of correcting that. So Jeff actually did. I think you actually did that incredibly well. So if I could take those notes from you, that'd be great. I was sitting here looking out on the city, reminded of my interactions with the state of Arkansas. My first trip to the state was in late August, early September of 1989. I lived in Natchitoches, Louisiana at the time. I had moved from Utica, New York in July of 1989. My wife and I had been married 8 months to Natchitoches, Louisiana with no air conditioning in our car. My wife, Kathy, with whom we're still married, at least as of departing this morning, worked the third shift as a charge nurse at Natchitoches Parish Hospital. And Northwestern State University, where I was a $500 a month intern, played in Springfield, Missouri at Southwest Missouri State, as it was known. And so we drove through the state, stopped actually for dinner in Fayetteville. One of the members of our staff in that car had a friend, University of Arkansas, toured the stadium, saw the campus. It was not an SEC campus at the time, as you'll recall. It was a member of the Southwest Conference. Fast forward, I finished a half marathon here. The Little Rock Half Marathon was held one March during the SEC women's basketball tournament. And I don't always think things through. And so I just signed up, and I had trained, and I wasn't prepared because it was a cold day, but the biggest medal in marathoning, right? That's for what it's known. But also to run the streets for gymnastics events we've had here, women's basketball, NCAA tournament games that have been held here, and just see how the city has continued to develop as a testament to the leadership that's present. So congratulations to you. I come though from a place called Skaneateles, New York. And in Skaneateles, it is about 30 miles outside Syracuse. It's generally nice for about another 3 or 4 weeks. The fall colors start to come out in magnificent ways. If you track back to June, every Father's Day, the Rotary Club in Skaneateles, New York, hosts a pancake breakfast. And, you know, it's the little things in life that you realize when you move away, how you long to go back and have that attachment. And so the combination of my hometown, of the influence and service of Rotary, while not a member, is real to me, because that's one of those anchor points. Unfortunately, or fortunately, this year I ended up in Omaha with 4 of the 8 teams playing in the College World Series on that pancake breakfast weekend. The Razorbacks are one of those 4, and we had a +2 this year with Texas and Oklahoma having both qualified. And so I missed that opportunity, but it's just a note about the impact that can be made. I'd also like to just say a couple words about Hunter's leadership. I don't know when the article will come out, and you never know what people will take from quotes. So Brandon, you can remember that I understand what I say and what is written is not always the same. That's not actually his responsibility. But Saturday night in College Station for the Miami game at Texas A&M, I was in attendance, and a reporter pulled me aside and asked if we could talk about the Arkansas program, because he's writing an article about the stature of the Razorbacks program, really across the board. And he was asking me, like, what's happened? And, you know, sometimes I get hit on social media where we should put the 4-way test at the top of everyone's Twitter account, particularly on Saturdays in the fall. But this notion that there hadn't been achievement. And I took a little bit of disagreement, because I think there's always been achievement present at the University of Arkansas, including in their athletics program, the leadership around track and field, for example. But you know what? Every one of these programs has struggles. It just seems like they're always your burdens. But it's really a remarkable story to see the success across the board. I was tracking on Hunter's recitation of attendance. I'll tell you one that was remarkable last year was the soccer tournament when you hosted, I think it was Notre Dame. I mean, there wasn't a place to breathe, much less sit. And that's a tribute to the fans, it's a tribute to Colby, it's a tribute to Hunter and his team. Courtney Deifel and what she's done in softball is like the story I love to tell, because there's this imaginary notion that you can't ascend to the highest of heights in the SEC standings. But if you actually go back and look 6-7 years ago when Courtney walked in, it was the lowest of lows. Like it was Ophir sort of lowest of lows. And she's now led a team in the toughest softball conference in America. to 2 consecutive regular season championships. And that's a testament to support. It's a testament to vision. It's a testament to patience. It's a testament to leadership. And on that point of leadership, I was here, it was not last year, it was a year and a half ago for indoor track and spent the weekend. I never went to as many events as I went to in 3 days during that trip, because I think every sport was taking place. But Hunter hosted myself with he and Jennifer and the Musselmans, the Pittmans and the Van Horns at dinner. And you can tell things about people, right? When you sit down to have lunch or dinner, you can tell, do they have relationships? Are they honest relationships? Can they laugh a little bit? Can they talk about the uncomfortable things for a moment or two? Like Eric had played LSU, his team had played LSU that afternoon. And I said, hey, what would have happened if you hadn't won that game? He's like, I wouldn't have been here, just completely honest. And I said, well, how did you react when Hunter said, hey, you're going to come to dinner with the commissioner the evening after the LSU game? He said, I wasn't coming if we hadn't won. And Danielle said, oh, yes, he was. So, but those are the moments of honesty that actually think show the kind of leadership and explain a bit of the success. And hopefully as I lead in the Southeastern Conference and as things change rapidly, we have those kind of relationships despite the intense competition. And that's okay. It's okay to have competition. It's okay to have the emotions play out. That's part of the joy, both the thrill of victory, as it was said on ABC's Wide World of Sports, and the agony of defeat. But behind the scenes, there's a lot taking place. So I thought I'd use my time to share with you a few updates on elements of our work. Some of it you read about. I'm not going to talk about games. I'm not going to predict winners. I don't get paid to pick who's going to win and who's not going to win. And I'm usually wrong, so I don't engage in that endeavor. But I do spend a lot of time trying to work to make this conference even more secure in its position of leadership in college athletics. So let's just start with the expansion of our membership. So in July of 2021, we announced, it was after a week of leaks and speculation. It started right in the middle of Media Day. So if you wonder, did I pick that time and date for the Houston Chronicle to report that Texas and Oklahoma were interested in joining the SEC? The answer is no. That's not what you do during our football media days. Yet it happened. You know, I never had to make a phone call to either of those universities from the time that story broke until we actually acted on their membership application the following Thursday, 8 days later, because I was comfortable and confident in who we are. And in their statements that they watched how we function, how we've led, and they wanted to be a part of the Southeastern Conference. You know, we never had a conversation about money. One of the amazing things that people speculate about when they write articles is, oh, it's all about the money. It never once came up. What came up was how we function, how we lead, and we want to be a part of that. The membership transition is effective July 1st, 2025. This July, at Big 12 Media Days, the new commissioner of the Big 12 Conference mentioned being open to an earlier transition. That's actually not between me and Oklahoma or me and Texas or the Southeastern Conference in those two universities. That's between those two universities in the Big 12 Conference. So our preparation is focused on entry for the 25-26 academic year, the 25 football season. And in preparation for that, when you move from 14 to 16, it's not like you're just adding 2. So those of you with large families, think back to when it was a small family. Remember that first child? You know, the second wasn't like just another child. It was a whole other level, right? And then those that went to like 3 and 4, it wasn't like 1 and 2. It was 3 and 4 with emphasis, right? And they're going to make sure you knew that. And so just adding 2 universities minimizes the impact and the scope of the decision and what we have to work through. One of the elements of that work is how do we schedule? The focus of the conversation is consistently around football. But we have 21 championship sports, which we have to schedule. So we've resolved some. We've resolved how we're going to schedule regular season basketball for men and women and how we'll run our tournaments. We know how we'll schedule soccer. We know how we will schedule tennis, which I know you're all interested in. How are they going to schedule a 16-team tennis league? We haven't made decisions around baseball, gymnastics, and a number of other sports. And then we have a whole host of sports that simply conduct championships. And since I know I'm in Arkansas and you have an interest in track and field, we literally have to reconfigure the heating and seating of our indoor and outdoor championships in a different way. But everyone wants to talk about football. How are you going to schedule football? Who are we going to play? And when are you going to make that decision? So if I had been invited to speak last September, I would have told you that we will make a decision by our Destin meeting in 2021. We had a meeting of athletics directors in August, in Destin in 2022. In August of 2021, we had our first gathering of 16 athletics directors, 14 in a room, and the Texas and Oklahoma athletics directors by Zoom. And I simply asked the athletics directors, when do you need an answer for your purposes? This is not simply about us. This is about non-conference schedules as well. And at that point, our athletics director said, it'd be most helpful if we knew really by our spring meetings, late May, early June of 2022. That projecting forward to 2025 will be a help as we administer our non-conference agreements. Well, we went to our spring meetings. We started to talk things through, and we decided to pause and to look at what was happening around us. A few things. What's going to happen with the college football playoff? I'm coming to that in just a moment. We knew that the Big Ten was going to be in the media marketplace. What might that mean? We never imagined it would mean exactly what it meant in late June when the Big Ten caught up with us, going from 14 to 16 members. We also had to dig through one of the elements that's on the table, which is a single division. So no more East and West is a possibility. One single division, it's the SEC, 16 teams. And for the last 30 or so years, our tiebreakers worked really well because there's always a head-to-head matchup that can help us determine things. But when you go to a single division, not everybody plays everyone else. And that means if there are tied records, you have to figure out new ways to break the tie. That's like Charlie Brown's teacher talking, right? Wah, 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 wah. But it is an enormously important task come like November if there are 2 or 3 or 4 tied teams. All of a sudden, it's not that boring. And so by delaying, what we learned is a lot more than we expected to learn. What we know now is the CFP, the college football playoff, will go to 12 teams. Certainly for the 26th season, the January 27 national championship game, but possibly earlier. And that becomes really important in this ecosystem of college athletics because next year, you're going to have to track on the numbers carefully. The Big 12, which is currently at 10 members, will go to 14. The following year, in 2024, the Big 10, which is currently 14 members, will go to 16, and the Pac-12, which is currently 12, will go to 10. And then next year in 2025, the SEC will go to 16, and the Big 12 will go from 14 to 12. So the natural order will reign. And so the incentives, the interest in adopting an earlier expansion of the college football playoff is higher now than it has been for the last year because we spent much of the last year not moving. So what does that mean for our schedule? Well, it means we have another really important piece of information where perhaps playing an additional SEC versus SEC game is more interesting to our campuses than it would have been, because one of the observations is next week in Auburn, Alabama, Missouri makes its first visit to Auburn for a conference game since joining the league in 2012. Realize Georgia's never gone to Texas A&M and won't until the 12th year of our cycle. One of the opportunities here is to move our teams through our campuses with greater frequency. I told Hunter I wouldn't send Georgia here right away, if you go back to 20. A little bit of an inside joke there. We'll see who laughs hard at that one. But we need to move our teams through more frequently. And then we've talked about a more fair and balanced schedule. We've actually tried to quantify what that means in our discussions. So there's more to come, really focused on a single division. We've looked at maintaining 2 divisions. We've actually looked at pods, which I thought were a tied product. But come to find out, our fans' interest in playing in groups of 4 and moving those around was fairly high. The problem was, as we'd move those groups of 4 around, through division play. From year to year, I might send you back repeatedly to the same place before that team would come to your campus. We've had some experience with that reality, and that's not the healthiest way to conduct competition. We meet every other week on video conference as a group of athletics directors. We'll meet in mid-October. We don't have to have a decision then. And so we're going to let this opportunity to figure out when the college football playoff is going to expand play out. And here's how it's going to play out. So on September 2nd, before the first Saturday of football season, the Board of Managers, which is a group of presidents and chancellors, met and said, we're going to approve a 12-team format for the 26th season, the January 27 national championship game. And if possible, set an expectation that the format expand early for the 24 and or the 25 seasons. Now, there's a lot to do to make that happen. And I'm just going to read through the boring things that have to be done to make that happen. We've announced a date and a year for Atlanta and Miami to host national championship games following the 24 and 25 regular seasons. You can't just flip a switch and move a bunch of hotels and an arena agreement. And so that work is to be done. We have a set of agreements that are 12 years in length. Started in 2014, they go through the 25 season that relate to media and relate to bowl games. Around bowl games, those agreements have dates and they have specifics on what teams will participate in some of those games. Those have to be dealt with before you can simply expand a playoff. We also have a media agreement with ESPN that extends through the 25 season for the college football playoff. We have identified first round games in the college football playoff to be hosted in campus stadiums. That will happen in early mid-December. Always a pleasant time of year to be outdoors. Well, we have to work through the logistics of making that happen. What's happening on campus at that time? How does the college football playoff schedule interact with the NFL schedule, with other television commitments? So that logistical work, which again is not forward-facing, but is necessary to figure out how to introduce, how to bring on board an expanded playoff. Now remember, moving from 4 to 12 teams is a significant undertaking, just like that expansion from 14 to 16 members. The 12-team playoff is really going to be constructed of two groups or from two groups of teams. One will be the 6 most highly rated conference champions. That means that 6 of the 10 football bowl subdivision conferences, the highest rated 6 based on the CFP rankings, will form half of the 12-team playoff field. The other half, the other 6, will be the most highly rated 6 teams according to the college football playoff selection committee rankings that are not conference champions. So if you go back to the 2014 season, I know you've all memorized this. In 2014, the 12th ranked team that year was Georgia Tech, but it was the 7th most highly ranked at-large or non-conference champion team. And so that circumstance brings a replacement. So it's not the top 12 teams. Boise State was ranked 20th that year. It would move in as the 6th most highly rated conference champion, replacing that 7th at-large team. And as I indicated earlier, first round games are envisioned for campus sites. The quarterfinals or the second round are expected to be played in bowl games. If it's 24 and 25, certainly what are called the New Year's 6 bowl games, the Cotton, the Peach, Fiesta Orange, Rose, and Sugar Bowls. The same bowls would be involved. It's envisioned certainly in 24, 25 in the semifinals, and then a national championship game. And all of those dates have to be determined. There's an opportunity for us to have a 12-team playoff to bring more teams in to the conversation in November and the opportunity to compete in the national championship structure. But there's certainly not a guarantee that it will happen early. The reason 26 is the date that's set specifically because that's year 13. Remember my reference to all of those 12-year contracts? Those expire after the 25 season. So 26 becomes the opportunity to clearly renegotiate or reestablish those agreements. We're also poised, a lot of talk about media opportunities, and I'm going to warn you, I will take an opportunity for questions, but Denver was clear that we are done at 1 o'clock. We have 2 more years left on an agreement with CBS that has that 2:30 Central, 3:30 Eastern first pick game allocated to CBS. For the 24 season, we pivot to ABC, ESPN, the Disney lineup of channels. Goes back to 2008. I won't unpack all the reasons that was the right move for us. It will produce additional revenue. We've already allocated the right to determine 1 game for each of our campuses to air, if you will, that's an old term, but to air on ESPN Plus. So if you see an ESPN Plus only designation for an Arkansas game, that means that the university, the athletics department gets to pick the kickoff times, not the media entity, not CBS and not ESPN in our current circumstance. We also expect to have earlier determination in the future, beginning with 24, for about 2/3 of our kickoff time. So we could know in the summertime when teams will be playing early. Nobody embraces fully that early game. And so rather than having a 6-day or 12-day notice, we expect to be able to make those announcements in July and allow people to make plans for travel, for promoting games. But the same will happen with the later timeframes. We'll be able to announce about 2/3 of those games being either in the afternoon or the evening time slot, subject to a little bit of a slide. Some games will still be on a more narrow selection window, but we want, as we looked at our opportunities here, trying to communicate earlier kickoff times or trying to communicate kickoff times earlier in the year was an asset we could create. Lastly, for my update, I do not go anywhere without people asking me these 2 questions. The first question is Hunter Yurachek really that good a guy? And I say, absolutely. The second question is, what are you going to do about name, image, and likeness activity? So let's go back and just understand the history. July 1st, 2021, college athletics entered the name, image, and likeness era. It entered that experience not because of an NCAA rule change, not because of an act of Congress, but because some states adopted laws with an effective date that barred within their state NCAA or conference or institutional rules from limiting student athletes' economic activity around the use of their name, image, and likeness. One of the desires across college athletics has been to not do this on a patchwork basis, on a state-by-state basis, where if a high school senior right now is being recruited by 12 different universities in 12 different states, that individual may have to understand 12 different state laws or 6 different state laws and 6 different university policies in states that don't have these laws. We've also seen states that adopted pretty effective name, image, and likeness laws initially, look around through the past calendar year and say, you know what, our law is a little bit more restrictive. And our legislatures, maybe some of you, have become competitive in this endeavor. And so there's been a pullback. We met with our basketball leadership council, so student athletes from all 14 of our universities, men and women, on Friday and Saturday at our offices. And that group was very clear that they want a national standard. They want consistency in however the name, image, and likeness rules or laws will be defined. They want the ability to know that if I'm competing against another individual, they're following the same set of guidelines. And they also want those who will follow to have an understanding of the rules and the policies that will apply to them in the future. They also talked about abuses that can occur. So we're not perfect in college athletics. We do a lot of things really well. We support student athletes remarkably well. We provide mental health counseling in a matter of hours, not days or weeks or months like is happening in the culture. Our medical support is second to none. The nutritional development that goes through and is invested in young people is meaningful and helps them move from those adolescent habits into adulthood as they try to fine tune their bodies for the highest level of competition. Some states bar us from providing the healthy kind of support around name, image, and likeness activity. Now, without defining what that means today and being even more boring than I was about tiebreakers, our desire is to have a national standard. We also have court cases and claims around various labor issues that we're facing these days. And so there are any number of challenges facing college athletics. These are complex issues. And what that means is, you may have read there was a little bit of tension between a couple of our football coaches late spring. And so when I walked into the meeting of our 14 head football coaches, I simply said this: it is never going to be the way that it was, but it doesn't have to be the way that it is. And to move from where we are to where we want to be or need to be, we won't move through accusations, complaints, and simple solutions. You know what a simple solution is? If anybody ever says to me, if you just, and then fill in the blank, that's a simple solution by definition. If you just get rid of all the officials you have, the officiating would be better. It's actually not true. If you just change the NCAA president, we could solve the problems of college sports. If you just expand to 24 or reduce to 12 or 10, we'd solve the problems. That's not actually reality. So it's never going to be the way that it was. It doesn't have to be the way that it is. And to move forward, we need the kind of collaboration, deep thinking, and problem solving that's helped us become the strongest conference in college athletics. That's become a mantra for our staff and in our meetings, and even for you today. So as we seek to resolve the issues in a time of uncertainty, I will share with you my belief firmly that there's no better place for a university, a head coach, or a young person to be than in the Southeastern Conference and as a member of this league. We're going to have our ups and downs. We're going to have our agreements and disagreements, but the opportunities that lay ahead are pretty remarkable. And I make that statement based on all that's happened over the last 7 years during my time as commissioner. You know, they told me a lot when they hired me, but they didn't tell me that we'd go through a global pandemic. They didn't tell me that we'd have more turnover among the athletics directors and our presidents and chancellors in 7 years than my predecessor had in his 13. They didn't tell me that our state legislatures would start to become involved in telling us how to run intercollegiate athletics programs, and that we'd have a variety of bills introduced in the House and Senate on Capitol Hill designed to tell us how to run college athletics. They didn't talk about the number of times I'd be in depositions. What was very clear was the expectation that you have as fans, that our athletics directors have, that our presidents and chancellors have, and that our student athletes have, is that we conduct ourselves with a level of excellence that draws people in, just like we saw in the summer of 2021 with Texas and Oklahoma. So I look forward to our future. I have probably left about 10 minutes, maybe a little less, for you to ask questions. And I'll decide whether I answer your question or the one that I think you should have asked. So who wants to be first? Yes, sir. Tell me your name.
Andrew Meadows, and as far as answering the question, I'm glad you said that, because this will be interesting. When I first heard Texas was coming to join the SEC, I thought about Alabama, the power, influence, and money, and history of Alabama. And Texas coming, it's like Godzilla coming to the King Kong jungle in certain ways. We all, the old folks here know that Texas is usually getting their way a lot, the old Southwest Conference days, and Alabama, you do a fine job keeping things fair for all 40 institutions. You have any concerns with Texas coming in and flexing their muscles with Alabama and all that scenario?
Actually, they're going to flex their muscles with Arkansas is the way I look at it, right? Is that fair? Yeah, you just have to go lower in the alphabetical order. You may not be surprised that you're not the first person to ask me that question. And in fact, our members asked me that question. I think a big reading of history, and I actually lived in Dallas at the end of the Southwest Conference, the formation of the Big 12 Conference. I saw today in my office a consultant's report, because my office in Dallas was 2 floors below the interim office of Steve Hatchell as the Big 12 was being formed. And that report talked about building culture, building continuity. which you'd argue, from the outside, maybe did or didn't happen. And they've had more migration than any other conference at this level. They are in a conference of peers. They're joining a conference of peers. The University of Oklahoma is joining a conference of peers, just like Texas A&M and Missouri did, just like Arkansas and South Carolina did. We have different budgets. We have different tenures. We have different size stadiums, but we have the ability to work together in a remarkable way. And I think one of the realities that will be experienced by our current members and our new members is we're going to work together to solve our problems. There are no dictators, even though that's occasionally assigned to me. Yes, sir. Tell me your name. Tanner, you're a guest. I appreciate the boldness. There you go. Sign the guy up and get his dues money if he's asking a question. Future member. So 2 questions, and I was told because there are people on Zoom. One question is, with the expansion and the addition of games with the college football playoff going from 4 to 12, do I see a reduction in games in the regular season, and do I see conference expansion? I think that's probably for us, you're asking to go beyond 16. The way I view the football season is we should look at how the game is timed. If we can manage timing within each game in a little bit different way, we can reduce exposures, still have the same type of competition as we add games. There's no way to expand the college football playoff without adding games at the end. If we can't add games, then we're going to be at 4 forever. And so I think rather than focusing on potentially reducing the regular season, which has incredible meaning and provides incredible opportunity, we should look at the structure of the game itself. So we've already had games over in about 2 hours and 57 minutes, going all the way to almost 4 hours in a regulation game in 3 weeks of the season. That should be more consistent, not NFL-like, but more consistent. Part of that's the way we time games, incomplete passes, for example, and also moving along replays to the extent we can. Also being creative about advertising. From an expansion standpoint, I actually skipped over this. We're really confident in who we are. The focus is on how do we make a 16-team conference as effective and even more effective in the future. I don't have a number in mind. I don't think our members have a number in mind. And of any conference right now that's very confident in who it is and what it represents, I would put the Southeastern Conference at the top of that list. I am very aware, and we collectively are very aware about what's happening around us, and we'll be prepared if things change in a dynamic way that there's an opportunity. But I'm not out on the recruiting trail. And there's a lot that's said. Like I read some stuff today, and I shared with our athletics directors the week after the Big Ten expansion. Look, the media, with all due respect, they have a job to do, is kind of throwing things against the wall to see what sticks. And you have to kind of filter that out, and we'll work to understand what's actually happening. The net of that is we're really confident in our decisions from a year ago and really focused on our level of excellence moving forward, and we're at 16. Last question, Jay, because I can read your button from here.
Home Wi-Fi, the license agreements will allow you to watch SEC football. I see that as a problem. I don't know how to solve it, but I assume y'all know how to solve that problem. But why do they have that?
Yeah, I don't know what your password is, but I'd be curious. So the question was about problems with access through Wi-Fi or digital access. Yeah, so you should, through your cable provider, have access through the ESPN app. So the only, for us, we have a very few games behind the ESPN Plus digital wall where you have to subscribe to that service. Everything else, as long as you have a cable subscription, you should be able to log in through your cable provider to ESPN and access it. And so we probably need to get you some technical help, which is why I was. I was trying to focus on, will it be beneficial to all concerned with that answer? And so I hope that was. I'm not sure about the goodwill and friendships there.
Hang tight, Greg, hang tight. Thank you, Jeff and Greg. I will, a point of personal privilege, I will say Greg and I have become friends through our shared love of Bono and sports. And so I'm super grateful that he agreed to join us today and share with us in Little Rock. Appreciate all the other guests for being a part of our meeting today. We have been giving gifts to all our speakers, Greg, as part of our Illuminate the Rock branding for the year. A gift that is going to be to you, but this is a representative of several of the books by Little Rock connected authors that we're giving in all of our speakers' names to Little Rock School District libraries and resource centers. And so we'll do that at the end of the year, and your name will be among those that are listed. And your name is in this book today. So I want to present that to you. Thank you. And then the highest honor we can give to a visiting Arkansan to the state of Arkansas is from the state of Arkansas. It's our Arkansas Traveler Certificate. And we're going to give this to you today in appreciation for your visit and hoping that you will, as the traveler would do, go and share the good word about the beautiful state of Arkansas to all those that you come across in all your travels. So congratulations. We've got a pin for Illuminate the Rock, so you can wear that at all your fancy meetings, and so we appreciate that. Next week, our Club 99 dinner parties. Congratulations again, Hunter. Grateful for your service, and we are adjourned.